Okay, and we are back, you guys. We are definitely back. Sorry about that little mishap there, but hey, we back. Ain't no need to even go over it. I'm gonna stop kicking a dead horse to death. You know what I'm saying? Good evening, Lit Lane. I am Demetri Lit All Day. This is the Demetri Lit All Day channel, and we love to call it fondly Lit Lane over here, the home of the Lit Laners and the Pit Crew. If you see them in green, that's what that means. They are part of the Pit Crew membership. Maybe you should think about joining the team, joining the squad, I normally say. So let's see here. Tonight, I'm glad y'all came back for this, right? I had said to myself, I say, these folks don't want to hear me read no more of that legal lease and stuff. I already did that last night. But then I say, no, people interested. I'm interested, right? So tonight we're gonna go over. I'm not gonna read this entire lawsuit because this lawsuit paperwork documentation is 55 pages long. It's from the member of Danity Kane, Dawn Richard, and it's pretty much being told as the straw that broke the camel back, right? So what I'm going to read is going to be just the first part, the introduction, saying who she is, and then we're going to get into the meat and the potatoes. And when I was perusing it, I was perusing over it. When I perused it, it is quite something, right? And then we'll close it out with the prayer. Okay, what's up, Sparkle? So that's what we're about to get into. I know I'm moving kind of fast. Please like this video. Please tell me in the comments on the replay if you came through, and let me know your thoughts and opinions about this content. I hope you guys had a great day today. You know, I did. For my true crimers that's been following along with me with the deadly daughter case in Mississippi. Just a little update. They actually finished today. The trial literally took the 3 days, and the case is now in the jury's hand. They're in deliberations. So, for you guys who've been following the deadly daughter case with me, tomorrow back in the pit, we should be finishing up that case. Okay, so be looking out for me to go live back there. And then after we finish this, wrap up this case tomorrow, we'll be starting on some other content back in the pit crypt for folks who are not into the true crime. Okay, so let's get ready to pull this up. Hey, Winter. Hey, everybody. Now this is going to be quite something here. I peeped at it a little bit and I didn't really read it, but just even peeping to see how long it was, I was like, damn. What's up, well me? So let me open it up here. Let me open it up. How do I open it up? One moment. Right here. Boom. So it should be coming up. Yep. And I think now that I see y'all, let me see if I can change y'all writing so I can read it on the screen. Let me see if I can do that real quickly. I'm starting to move a little faster with the software and stuff, so we getting there. Let me change y'all text color from white to, let me pick another color so I can see it. One moment. Yeah. Let's pick this color here. Oh well, so let me just take the chat box down because it's kind of annoying and you can't see what y'all saying, and I don't want to get stuck on something like that. You guys see each other in the chat, and I see y'all on the side here. What's up, Daniel? For purposes of this content here, we gon' oh well, it's still up. Let me see. Let me see. So it already did it. Now I made it black. You sure can't see it. Why y'all on my screen? Wait a minute. What did I do? What is this on the screen? What did I do all messed up? Hold on, y'all. Sorry about that. Damn. What did I push? It's crazy. Let me say revert changes. Boom. And let me say close. Why is this on my screen like this? I done fucked up. Big time. Let me see. Oh man. Okay. So I move the box. Okay. There go the box. Okay. Uh um so I did this. Okay. Close. Okay. All right. So let me get back up the lawsuit. Okay, that's what I didn't miss. I didn't lost that. Let's see. Oh, I know what's happening. I got it on this window here, and it should be on this window, the lawsuit. Boom. Okay, that's what it was. Okay, I figured it out. Thank y'all. Thank y'all. Thank y'all. Thank y'all. You know, we are work in progress, a work in progress. Progress, not perfection. Okay? So we're going to jump into this. This is a long reading, but like I said, we're going to read the preliminary statement, just the opening um, language of the lawsuit from Don Angelique Richard. Okay? We're gonna not read the part about excuse me, where they name all the parties that they're suing because hey, chill out, because they naming all of the right, boom, right. So they naming all of his enterprises. We've seen that language before. We already know how that goes. They name the liquor store, all that, boom, 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 boom. All the record companies, they name all that, and then we get into what's called the actual factual, not the actual factual, but the factual allegations. That's really what we want to focus on. So let's get started. We're gonna go right here, the preliminary statement. Let me wet my whistle with some coffee. Preliminary statement number one. Dawn Angelique Richard, known professionally as Dawn Richard, is an American musician, singer, songwriter, and performer. She gained widespread recognition as a member of the girl group Danity Kane, formed by defendant Sean Combs, and later transitioned into a key member of Mr. Combs' band, Diddy Dirty Money. Defendant Sean Combs, a once celebrated hip hop mogul, popularly known by his stage names Puff Daddy, Puffy, P. Diddy or Love, skyrocketed to fame in the late 1990s, excuse me, and became a powerful and enduring figure in the music and entertainment industry. In 1998, Mr. Combs explained the origins of his stage name in a USA Today interview. His nickname was Puff because he had a temper. Wow. And was known to huff and puff when he was angry. Now that's the first part right here. Hey Victoria. Hey Shani. So drop a one if you knew that, or if you knew that. I didn't know that, right? I never knew that the way that he got the name Puff Daddy was because of his temperature, and he would huff and puff. If you heard that story somewhere before, drop a one. If this your first time hearing it, drop a two, right? For me, it's a two. I never heard that before. Let me know in the chat, right? So it does look better with the pink, right? So let me do this real quickly. One moment. Because it really does help me to see y'all comments when I can see them on the screen. Let me see. Um, while y'all tell me about what y'all think, one or two. Let me see. Unlock this. And then do this. Hold on. Okay. And then come on the other side. Uh-huh. Okay. And move it in. Let me open this side up a little bit wider. Okay. Boom. And that looks better. Okay, we get so we get okay. So I see two didn't know, two Victoria, two didn't know, Emanate, two Tamika, two. So okay, this is some new information, and isn't that very foretelling, right? That he literally told the USA Today that the very reason he was named Puff Daddy was because of his temper, way back in the beginning. That is very telling, right? So let's continue. Y'all please hit the like. I'm sure y'all did. Number 3, over the decades following his rise to fame, Mr. Combs' star-studded, larger-than-life persona overshadowed his vicious temper and pervasive acts of violence directed towards those in his inner circle, specifically women. 4, Mr. Combs' namesake temper, puff, the puff, frequently manifested in physical violence. Mr. Combs regularly hurled objects in fits of rage, often throwing items such as mobile phones, laptops, food, and studio equipment across the room or at people. Last night, in the indictment from the United States versus Sean Combs and all his aliases, they actually went a step further and said he threw all those things, and he also was known to throw people. Okay? Continuing on numerous occasions, Miss Richard witnessed Mr. Combs brutally beat his girlfriend, Miss Cassandra Cassie Ventura, Miss Ventura. His persistent abuse included choking and strangling Miss Ventura, striking her with his hands and with objects, slapping her, punching her, and throwing items at her, including a scalding hot pan. Damn, I didn't know he did the scalding hot pan. Now this is for Cassie. And what they saying is, in this lawsuit, this is from Dawn Richard. She actually saw these things with her 2 eyes, okay? Is what she's saying. Damn, I didn't know he threw a hot pan at Cassie. Number 5, on many occasions, Miss Richard tried to intervene, offering Miss Ventura support and encouragement to leave Mr. Combs. Each time Mr. Combs learned of her efforts to help Miss Ventura and became enraged, threatening Miss Richard's life with statements such as, "You want to die today? I make a nigga go missing. And I end people," in bold. Okay? Bold print. Those are quotes. Number 6, compounding Mr. Combs' violent acts and death threats, he flagrantly, I like that word, he flagrantly exploited Miss Richards' musical talent as a singer and writer while withholding her rightful earnings, stealing her copyrighted works, and subjecting her to years of inhumane working conditions, which included groping, assault, and false imprisonment, among other violations. Number 7, for nearly a decade, Mr. Combs manipulated Miss Richard with mantras that submission to his depraved demands was necessary for career advancement, instilling in her the belief that such abuse and exploitation were required for female artists to succeed in the music industry. It was not until Miss Ventura's bravery, that's Cassie, in coming forward that Miss Richard realized her own personal suffering was tied to the many years of abuse by Mr. Combs that had become normalized for her. Number 8, as more women courageously come forward, plaintiff has been empowered by this collective strength and now adds her voice to the growing chorus of victims bravely sharing their harrowing stories. Together, they seek justice and stand in solidarity as the latest victims of the hashtag #MeToo movement in the music industry. And guess what, you guys? I was literally sitting here when she was saying about, when they were saying, "Hey, Tweety, what's up, Lady T?" Shout out to everybody. Y'all hit the like for me. It's 29 little laners up in here. I know I probably got 29 likes up in here. I can't see them, but I'm pretty sure I do. I trust in y'all. I believe in y'all, okay? Now, as soon as I started reading that language about Dawn Richards started getting emboldened and empowered once more people came up, especially with Cassie having a success with her lawsuit she did, that gave her the courage to step up. And when I was reading that to you guys, I immediately started saying, And I knew I was going to come tell you guys, I was going to say, don't this sound like the Me Too movement? But that's exactly what it is. That's exactly what it is. So let's go ahead and keep reading. Now the parties, as let you guys know in the beginning, I'm not going to focus on the parties because the parties is Sean Combs, and then it goes on to list all of the different companies, all of his different business ventures, and even some of the record labels and all of that. Okay, so that's what all this is that I'm skipping. It's all that legal lease. Okay. And I think what I'll do is I'll go ahead and put the link to this document in the description bar. Okay. The next part here is the jurisdiction and venue. Okay, and they're doing this in let's see the damn, it don't even say the god doggone venue. The court has supplementary jurisdiction over. Okay, so this is what we're going to get to. Factual allegations. Okay, y'all go ahead and get tucked in. Let's start. Factual allegations. Miss Richard is selected to be in Mr. Combs' all-female musical group Danity Kane after competing on MTV's Making the Band. Let me open up my channel on my phone because I can't see y'all comments while I'm reading it. That way I can see it. Okay, I can see y'all. Hey, Daquan. Boom, that way I can see y'all comments as I'm reading. All right. 32. In or around 2004, Miss Richards was selected to participate in season 3 of MTV Network's reality television show Making the Band. The show centered around the formation and development of a new musical group under the mentorship of Mr. Combs. The contestants would compete and be chosen by Mr. Combs to form a band, which would go on to create albums and perform. Hey, living. For aspiring artists like Miss Richard, Making the Band represented a concrete path to a career in the entertainment industry. Miss Richard appeared in seasons 3 and 4 of Making the Band, which first aired in 2005, and in season 5 of Making His Band, which aired in 2009. Winter says, hell, he was abusive on TV. I didn't really watch those shows. You know, by that time, I was already, baby, I don't know what I was doing, but that sounded like I was letting the good times roll in them years. Number 34, out of thousands of contestants, Miss Richard, along with approximately 12 other women, were selected to participate in season 3 of Making the Band. 5 women, including Miss Richard, was ultimately chosen to be in the group Danity Kane, which was named by Miss Richard. Oh, okay, so she the one who actually gave him the name. Okay, what's up, Sincere? Number 35, prior to and including the first Danity Kane album, Making the Band was filmed entirely at Daddy's house recording studio at 3120 West 44th Street, New York, New York. That's over there where they made the Christmas movie, right? The Making of the Band content that focused on Danity Kane's work on his second album, Welcome to the Dollhouse, was filmed at Daddy's house and at Mr. Combs' Miami residence. Other Making the Band episodes included Los Angeles as a third filming location. Okay. Upon information and belief, to create Making the Band, camera crews filmed 24 hours a day, gathering months' worth of footage to condense into mere hours of entertainment for viewers. Danity Kane released his self-titled debut album in August 2006 and his second album, Welcome to the Dollhouse, in March 2008. Danity Kane's first album sold over 4 million copies. Damages to Miss Richards for unpaid salaries are estimated at $1 million. That's kind of cheap, huh? Danity Kane's second album, Welcome to the Dollhouse, sold over 2 million copies. Damages to Miss Richard for unpaid salaries and royalties are estimated at $500,000. Damages on unpaid wages for touring on over 100 dates for Miss Richard with Danity Kane are estimated at $1.8 million. Okay, so apparently she wasn't getting paid all the way around, right? Mr. Combs fired bandmate Aubrey O'Day and Juanita D. Woods Woodget from Danity Kane on live television at the height of his fame in 2008, which resulted in Danity Kane being disbanded in 2009. Okay. Now, we're finna get to the meat and potatoes. Subsection 2. Miss Richards first encounters Mr. Combs' aggressive, intimidating behavior and animus towards women. So, number 40. Damn, they say during the auditions. During the auditions and on the set of making the band, Mr. Combs projected an aura of superiority, wealth, and power. Mr. Combs regularly wore sunglasses and avoided looking the female contestants in the eyes, contributing to an atmosphere of uncertainty and intimidation. Damn! Baby, these people not leaving no stone unturned. So from the very onset, with him being on set, of course he's gonna give off a air of superiority, wealth, and power. He was in that position. But they say even the sunglasses was made for like a hostile work environment almost, right? During auditions, Mr. Combs spoke to the female contestants in a hostile, condescending manner, making disparaging gender-based remarks, such as calling them fat, ugly, bitches, and hoes. Damn. Miss Richard felt threatened and intimidated by Mr. Combs' blatant disdain for the young women, like herself, who were excited for their opportunity to be on his show. Tweety say, is that why they wear sunglasses indoors? Right, to give off that feeling of untouchability. You know what I'm saying? Aloofness, detachment. Mystery. What's behind the glasses? What is he thinking? The eyes is the windows to the soul. You know what I'm saying? You can't see him. You gotta keep wondering. Jaya, you gonna live a long time, girl. I thought about you the other day. I miss you over here. Hey, Jaya. I thought about you just this week. Once the band was made, Mr. Combs' contempt for women was readily apparent as he continued to display aggressive and hostile behavior towards Miss Richard and her all-female Danity Kane bandmates. Mr. Combs regularly referred to the 5 women as bitches and hoes and denigrated their physical appearances. By way of example, Mr. Combs stated that Miss Richard was too skinny and needed to do something about this. Okay, and hey, Leak and this that he referred to was her face. I mean, I'm laughing because of the obnoxiousness, right? This shit ain't funny, but I'm going to read the last sentence again. By way of example, Mr. Combs stated that Miss Richard was too skinny and needed to do something about this. The this he was talking about is her face, okay? Number 43, on one occasion, in or around 2005, during the season of Making the Band 3, Miss Richard observed Mr. Combs' ex-partner and the mother of his 3 children, Kim Pointer, leaving Mr. Combs' recording studio in tears with visible facial injuries, including a lacerated lip. Realizing that Mr. Combs was capable of committing acts of violence against women caused Miss Richard to feel deep apprehension and fear that Mr. Combs could one day physically harm her. Now, this is right out the offset. This is right as soon as she made Making the Band. This is why she was auditioning. All this stuff has started. Y'all reading so much, my cigarette can go out. So I'm going to keep lighting it back up, okay? I'm not smoking crack. I promise y'all. Miss Richard was present when Mr. Combs was introduced to Cassandra Cassie Ventura for the first time, in or around 2006. The moment Mr. Combs first saw Miss Ventura, his demeanor noticeably shifted. Mr. Combs positioned himself directly in front of Miss Ventura's seat, invading her personal space, and fixated on her with an intense, unyielding stare, isolating her from the other people in the room, including Mr. Ventura's then boyfriend, music producer Ryan Leslie. Dang. You talk about come off strong. So now we know what happened when they first met. Because Miss Richard, the lawsuit, the defendant in this, she actually saw what happened. right? And apparently he came on real strong, and apparently he didn't care nothing about Cassie's boyfriend being there. Okay, he go like he was when he's determined that he gonna have something. That's just what it is. That's what I'm picking up. What they putting down. Number 45, because coincidentally, this first meeting between Mr. Combs and Miss Ventura was the first time that Miss Richards was in Mr. Combs' presence without a camera crew filming. Observing Mr. Combs behave in such an intimidating, predatory manner the first time that they were off camera made Miss Richards feel deeply apprehensive and afraid of him. You know, well, it's kind of strange because they already in the very first part, right? The proclamation about when they laid it out, they already stated that at some point after making the band, making Danity Kane, they literally said that he fired the other two girls and that band was over with, right? So somewhere between the time of Danity Kane and then Dirty Money, if she's saying already she was scared and apprehensive, golly, it's just like, is it the money? I know they saying about the brainwashing and the intimidation and all that type of you know what I'm saying? I get that, but we ain't talking about no marriage now. You know what I'm saying? So anywho, 46. Subsequently, Miss Ventura ended her relationship with Mr. Leslie and began dating Mr. Combs, who would become violent and abusive towards her. Section 3. Danity Kane, sexual harassment, inhumane treatment, and denial of basic needs by Mr. Combs. For the majority of Miss Richards' tenure as a member of Danity Kane and Diddy Dirty Money, Mr. Combs required her to remain in his various residencies and studios in New York, Los Angeles, Florida, and New Jersey for activities such as recording, rehearsing, dressing, preparing costumes, and exercising. Right, she joined the other group. That was her get out of jail free card. You know what I'm saying? Throughout the productions of Making the Band 3 and 4, Mr. Combs deprived Miss Richard and her Danity Kane bandmates of basic needs, such as adequate food and sleep. When Miss Richard or her Danity Kane bandmates requested meals or rest, Mr. Combs refused and chastised them with the derogatory comments like, "You bitches don't want this," or "Y'all not hungry enough," and "I'm paying you bitches to work." Child. This demeaning behavior gradually undermined Miss Richards' confidence and contributed significantly to her growing feelings of insecurity and fear of reprisal from Mr. Combs. That's like the same type of stuff that what's his name, Nature Boy was doing. Remember how he was over there keeping his coat and he was keeping them sleep deprived and hungry and stuff. So that's like a regular tactic, to inflict tyranny and to do. Tweety says, yeah, that's like saying, why did Cassie stay so long when we don't know the behind the scenes? Right. So I don't want to ever take away from the victims, because we do know they have that. We do know that abuse victims go through like a brainwashing and all that type of stuff. I get it, but I'm like, dang. Number 49, important information and belief. Mr. Combs would regularly be awake for prolonged periods of time because he was high on drugs. During these times, Mr. Combs demanded continuous access to Miss Richard and her Danity Kane bandmates, often forcing them to record and rehearse for stretches of 36 to 48 hours without breaks, forced to choose between eating and sleeping. Miss Richard lost a significant amount of weight, weighing approximately 100 pounds, at a height of 5'4". Ooh, that's skinny. Miss Richard began to normalize these extreme conditions and perceive. Okay, here we go, right here. Miss Richard began to normalize these extreme conditions and perceive them as standard requirements of her participation in Danity Kane. So there we go, right there. This started off from the very jump. He started letting them know that this is the only way you succeed. He's a mogul. He's been successful beyond even belief. Here he is seemingly offering them this opportunity. He know what it takes to make it. And so surely, if this is what he's asking of us, surely if this is what he's doing to us, then surely this must be okay. This must be the right way. This must be the way you make it. Let me not complain. Let me not be the squeaky wheel. Right? Winter says although he fired the other two, she was still under Danny Kane contract. Right. Hey, Saint City. Contract that wasn't really a contract, more like ownership papers. Okay. Sound like a coat to me, a sex coat. Number 50, Mr. Combs regularly sent his associates to wake Miss Richard and her Danny Kane bandmates in the overnight hours so he can watch them rehearse. The regularity of these disturbances led Miss Richard to adapt by sleeping in a sitting position, fully dressed, and with makeup on, heightening her anxiety. Wow. Over time, these abnormal sleeping arrangements came to feel routine, further normalizing Mr. Combs' invasive demands. See, this is where they're making their case. This is how, to me, when I'm getting down by this verbiage, this language, this is where they're answering skeptics like me, right? They're saying this is why she stayed. This is why this went on for so long, right? That's what I'm hearing when they keep saying about further normalizing, right? Number 51. In addition to exhausting rehearsals, Mr. Combs required Miss Richard and her bandmates to participate in intense workouts with a personal trainer. On one occasion, while running on the beach, Miss Richard became so dehydrated that she vomited. Instead of offering medical assistance, MTV Network's camera crew filmed the incident, contributing to her acceptance of such treatment as part of her professional life. Hey, Muffin. Thank you for coming through. Shout out to Muffin the Pit Crew, Tweety. All y'all in green, that's what it means. They part of the Pit Crew membership squad. Number 52, the unrelenting and rigorous schedule of rehearsals, performance, and near constant filming that Mr. Combs imposed caused Miss Richard to experience extreme weight loss, dehydration, fatigue, and painful rashes from the microphone pack she was required to wear on her back. Damn. These conditions intensified as Miss Richard's feelings of powerlessness, as she increasingly viewed them as part of her professional reality and feared the consequences of any resistance. Wow. So this is her big break. And from the very onset of her big break, she's already suffering all these bad work conditions and stuff. So if you're doing this from right at the start, you think that's how it go. Number 53, in a further assertion of power and dominance, Mr. Combs insisted on holding meetings while dressed only in his underwear. On one occasion in 2008 at his Miami residence, Mr. Combs emailed Miss Richards, directing her to meet him in the living room. When she arrived, he was wearing only his underwear. Mr. Richards asked Mr. Combs to put clothes on, but he refused, stating, "This is my fucking house." Mr. Combs then conducted a meeting lasting approximately an hour while dressed in his underwear, causing Miss Richard to feel violated and embarrassed and amplifying her feelings of powerlessness. Now, remember we read the lawsuit from that guy, right? And he was saying about how Sean Combs, P. Diddy, and all his AKAs, how he was making him come in a bathroom with him, right? Giving Harvey Weinstein, right? Winter said he tortured the men and women on that show. Day 6 guys went through hell too. That was another group, the Day 6 guys. See, I didn't watch those shows. Thank y'all for chiming in the chat. So they was doing this, and so that goes to say, welcome to the membership, Sweet Plum. Welcome to the Pit Group. We're gonna see if my alert pop up and say you just joined the membership. Keep my eye open for that. Dang, this phone on 9%. I'm gonna have to get my other phone so I can watch the chat. Thank you for coming to membership. I appreciate that. You're now part of the Pit Group. So again, they doing all this stuff from the very beginning, and it's being filmed on television. So surely, if they filming this, then that must make it okay, right? Right. Okay. Number 54, following the official Danny Kane breakup in early 2009, effectuated by Mr. Combs, Miss Richard experienced significant financial hardship. With no prospective opportunities for employment within the entertainment field, Miss Richard spent several months traveling from Baltimore to Daddy's House recording studio in New York. That is such a strange name for a recording studio, right? Daddy's House. Very weird. Without pay or allocated budget. Mr. Combs promised that Miss Richards' compositions would result in payment of license fees and royalties pursuant to her contract with Bad Boy Records. However, no such compensation was ever reported or paid to Miss Richard. Damages relative to these continuing copyright infringements will be proved at trial. Okay. Living says they were young adults then, and was just seeking stardom. Didn't know any better. Correct, absolutely correct. And let me real quickly before we go to subsection 4 or section 4, let me try to fix something here. How would I do that? I would let's see. I would move this right on top of the window capture. Sorry, I'm talking my way through something here. I'm trying to see something. Okay, so let me hit this real quick. Y'all might hear a sound. Let me see. Oh, boom. Welcome, Sweet Plum, to the pit crew. Welcome. Okay, move right along. And I learned how to take it off the screen. Okay, moving right along. Section 4, Diddy, Dirty Money. So this is her experiences with dirty money. Miss Richard experiences Mr. Combs' gender-based physical violence, criminal acts, sexual assault, threats, and intimidation. Number 55. By approximately the fall of 2009, many of Miss Richard's compositions had been recorded by other Bad Boy Records artists. Due to the success of her compositions, Miss Richard was invited to meet with the musical artist Kalina Harper, Miss Harper. And shortly thereafter, Mr. Combs, Miss Richard, and Miss Harper formed a new group, Diddy Dirty Money. Initial recording for Diddy Dirty Money album, Last Train to Paris, took place in Mr. Combs' home on Doheny Drive in Los Angeles, California. On the first day of recording, Miss Richard and Miss Harper arrived in Mr. Combs' home and waited in the kitchen, where Mr. Combs' girlfriend, Miss Ventura, Cassie, was frying eggs for him. Go ahead, Cassie, frying them eggs. Miss Richard observed Mr. Combs come down the stairs looking high on drugs, enter the kitchen, approach Miss Ventura, and scream, "I've been asking you for my shit. I can't stand you, bitch. You never do it right." Damn. Mr. Combs pushed Miss Ventura against the wall and choked her. Dang. Then picked up the scalding hot pan of eggs and threw it at her, causing her to fall to the ground in a fetal position. Cursing and screaming, Mr. Combs dragged Miss Ventura up the stairs. Lord have mercy. Let me see what y'all saying. Let me go back. Okay. Winter says the really sad part of this is that he got away with some of this on national TV. Absolutely, right? Sweet Plum says, they a lot of times, a lot is forgiven with power, prestige, and money. Okay? That buys a lot of, and that receives a lot of allowances, right? A lot of looking the other way. Okay? That's number one. And then number two, a lot of times is, people in their behaviors in these positions, they're considered egocentric, right? They are considered egocentric. They're considered, they just always make excuses for the unacceptable. They normalize the unacceptable, right? They make the abnormal normal. Now, I didn't know nothing about this. The first time I heard something about him throwing a hot skillet of fried eggs at him. Okay? So, Sweet Plum say, yeah, Dawn was from Louisiana and her family was dependent on her. They had just went through Hurricane Katrina. Boom. Oh, no problem, Sweet Plum. Thank you. Lady T says terrible. He was really horrible on that show. See, I'm glad y'all know about the show. So y'all more so can put a face to it. You know what I'm saying? And know who it is. I never watched it. I know the group though. Excuse me. Number 58. Frozen in shock. Miss Richard heard glass shattering, crashing, and banging noises as Mr. Combs dragged Miss Ventura up the stairs. Miss Richard wanted to intervene and help Miss Ventura, but Miss Harper adamantly refused to interfere. Something else happened. I just heard the little thing go off. I don't know what happened yet. Let me see. Let me look. Oh, it's keep popping up. Okay. Oh, y'all can't see it. How you take it down? Let me see. Boom. Oh, I gotta wait. I didn't wait long enough for it to do it by itself. Okay. Anywho, sorry y'all. Sorry y'all. Sorry y'all. Y'all know what time it is with me in this software. Frozen in shock, Miss Richard heard glass shattering, crashing, and banging noises as Mr. Combs dragged Miss Ventura up the stairs. Miss Richard wanted to intervene and help Miss Ventura, but Miss Harper adamantly refused to interfere in Mr. Combs' relationship and physically led Miss Richard out of the residence. Terrified and shaken, Miss Richard, that's Dawn, returned to her hotel where she was unable to sleep due to worrying about Miss Ventura and her own safety. The following day, Miss Richard received a call demanding that she return to Mr. Combs' residence to continue recording. Mr. Combs brought Miss Richard and Miss Harper into the recording room, at his studio, locked the door, dimmed the lights, and gave each of them flowers. Child! Mr. Combs went on at length, stating, "This is normal. This was just a lover's argument where no one was hurt. This is what love is. I'm giving you an opportunity. If you want to make it, you'll shut your mouth. If you say anything, there will be consequences." Mr. Combs further warned that people end up missing. Being threatened while locked for over 20 minutes in a small enclosed space with Mr. Combs after observing Mr. Combs violently assault Miss Ventura the day before, Miss Richard was terrified and genuinely believed that Mr. Combs would follow through on his threats. Now, ain't that something? Ain't that like romancing the you know what I'm saying? That's at this point in time, it's Cassie that's in a domestic violence relationship, personal relationship with P. Diddy. She the one being domestically abused. Dawn and the group, right now is Dirty Money. They getting verbally abused, emotionally abused, financially abused. And at this very moment, in this instant, in this example, ain't this how they say the abuser will often do? They'll often come to you after the abuse and often, express remorse, false promises of it'll never happen again. So basically, he get you up in there in a dim room, lock the door, give you some flowers, tell you, hey, everything gonna be all right. And at the same time, same breath, threaten, if you say anything, they will be consequences. People end up missing. Wow. Where me say, and the nerve of him asking for bail. I heard he got denied again. Is that still correct? Sweet Plum say, I cringed when he had the group Danity Kane rub on Cassie because she was cold and they was waiting for a heater to arrive. This was on the show. See? Excuse me. Number 60, in or around November 2009, after the Soul Train Awards in Atlanta, Georgia, Mr. Combs flew Miss Richard and Miss Harper to his house in New York on his private jet for an after party. There were many well-known celebrities at the after party, and conspicuous amounts of illegal drugs were being openly consumed. Upon information and belief, Mr. Combs had arranged for dozens of young women and girls, some of whom appeared to be underage, to be transported to the party. The women arrived wearing little to no clothing and were given drugs and alcohol. Many of them appeared lethargic or passed out while Mr. Combs and his guests performed sexual acts on them. Miss Richard believed that her presence at the party was a test to see whether Mr. Combs could trust her. Sound like grooming, huh? Sound like grooming for the freak-offs. I bet Dawn has already given her statement to the feds prior to this lawsuit. Went to say yes, denied. Oh, the second one. Okay, yes, he was denied the second one. And I didn't know. I found out that he was in the same jailhouse as R. Kelly. So basically, this is going to be the first time that R. Kelly actually has somebody in his unit. Because, you know, they've been having R. Kelly, this is a sidebar, they've been having R. Kelly in his own little unit over there by himself. So now R. Kelly got a buddy, right? So I wonder who's gonna be the top and who's gonna be the bottom. That's a little sidebar, okay? Give me one moment. I'll be right back before you can blink your eye 3 times. Be right back. All right, I'm back. I had to top off my coffee for all this reading. Let's get it. Hey, CEO. We reading the factual allegations on this lawsuit from Dawn Richard, member of Danity Kane, and then went on to be member of Dirty Money, okay? These are the factual allegations. Let's see. Okay, so this is where the grooming began with the freak offs inviting her to those after parties, right? Mr. Combs repeatedly said things like, "This is a buffet. Enjoy yourselves. This is what we do. This is how we party." Hey, Dovey. Miss Richard felt shocked and horrified at the sight of Mr. Combs and his guests violating incapacitated young women and implored Mr. Combs' personal assistant, Capricorn Clark, to allow her to leave. Miss Clark insisted that Miss Richard wait 15 minutes for Miss Clark to make it make sense. That is, to make Miss Richard's exit less conspicuous so that Mr. Combs would not notice that she had left. Knowing that she was not free to leave and had to wait for Miss Clark to help her orchestrate her departure, Miss Richard experienced feelings of panic and being trapped against her will. Hey, room shaker. What, the topping off my coffee? When I say at the top off my coffee, why that trigger you? Mm-hmm. Last night I heard Truth Enterprise say, shout out to Truth. I heard her say she was making her some coffee and it was nighttime, then she gonna go to bed. I said, okay, we got another coffee drinker like me. I'll drink this coffee and go to bed, right? Did I say, hey, Embrene? What's up, Embrene? I don't think I spoke. Or maybe it was at the beginning. All right, so Mr. Combs regularly placed Miss Richards in similar situations with no means to escape. At Mr. Combs' drug-fueled parties, his guests, including Miss Richard, were required to surrender their phones upon entry. Mr. Combs kept the doors locked and guarded by security personnel, making it impossible for Miss Richard to leave without alerting Mr. Combs that she had done so. Mr. Combs hired police officers. Ooh. Check this out. Mr. Combs hired police officers to attend his parties, sending a clear message to guests that his influence extended to law enforcement officers and creating a climate of fear and a tacit warning that reporting him to the authorities would be both unacceptable and futile. Now, see, that's that power and control, baby. You know, now this is going to be something that's going to be very interesting now that he's actually locked up and actually moving ahead. You know, when they subpoena these law officers who was sitting there getting paid to turn the other eye while they still serving and wearing the badge. Okay? On many occasions, Mr. Combs had parties at his Miami, Florida residence that lasted for several days. At one of the parties, Miss Richard witnessed Mr. Combs openly stating that he had arranged for both for busloads of young exotic girls such as mixed black and Asian, Indonesian, and albino. Once again, Miss Richard observed inebriated young girls being sexually violated by Mr. Combs and his guests. In a state of panic and terror, Miss Richard fled to the bedroom Mr. Combs had insisted she stay in and barricaded the door shut with furniture. Hey, Lavon. It was futile, and now we're getting to see more coming out. Got them thinking that even the law can't help you. Right? If I see somebody sitting right there, a cop with a badge, who can you run to? Who can you turn to? The cops in on it. You don't know how far up he didn't pay for protection, right? He got the money. Number 64, Mr. Combs openly assaulted Miss Ventura in front of Miss Richard and other witnesses on multiple occasions. On one occasion, in or around the fall of 2009, Diddy Dirty Money was in New York preparing to perform at a festival. Inside their vehicle, Mr. Combs grabbed Miss Ventura's neck, pulled her out of the van onto the grass, and pinned her head down, choking her while yelling, "You're going to get fucked up today." Ain't that some shit? This incident took place in the backstage area just outside the festival and was clearly visible to the passerby. In another instance, in or around early 2010, Mr. Combs punched Miss Ventura in the face in the bathroom of a party in Los Angeles. Frequently, when Miss Ventura attempted to voice an opinion or stand up to Mr. Combs, he would strike her or wrap his hands around her throat and choke her. On the first several occasions that they observed Mr. Combs assault Miss Ventura, Miss Richard and Miss Harper spoke with Miss Ventura to support and encourage Miss Ventura in escaping her abusive relationship with Mr. Combs. Every time that Miss Richards and Miss Harper tried to intervene, Mr. Combs learned of the conversation and became irate. Mr. Combs screamed at the women, "Y'all bitches don't get in my relationship. Don't tell my bitch what she need to be doing. Just make money and shut the fuck up. I end artists. I shelve careers. You could be missing. And you bitches want to die today? All right, Muffin," among other threats. Baby. Well, I hope y'all can't hear me. I hope this microphone ain't good enough where y'all can hear me sucking down this coffee. Number 67, in or around late 2009 or early 2010, Bad Boy Entertainment entered an agreement with Interscope, Geffen, and A&M Records, Interscope. Upon information and belief, Bad Boy was paid $50 million in exchange for Bad Boy future releases being distributed through Interscope. In doing so, Mr. Combs intended to capitalize on Interscope's significant resources and enhance the promotion and sales of Bad Boy's releases, including Diddy Dirty Money's upcoming album. Levon say 112 can attest to careers being shelved, right? He had these people and all this stuff, all these folks and stuff, the industry in the chokehold, right? He had the East Coast in the chokehold performers. And at the same time, all this going on, they got people dying for an opportunity to join this enterprise, right? People that would give anything to be a part of his team. Number 68, in the weeks and months leading up to the Bad Boy Interscope deal, Mr. Combs had frequent meetings with producer and then CEO of Interscope Records, Jimmy Iovine. What is it? Iovine. I'm just right now say Iovine, okay? On one such occasions, Combs hosted a dinner at the West Hollywood, California restaurant, which Miss Richard and Miss Harper were required to attend. Among the guests at the dinner were celebrities like Neo and Usher, as well as Mr. Iovine. At the dinner, Mr. Combs and Miss Ventura had an argument. In front of the dinner guests, Mr. Combs hissed at Miss Ventura in a screaming whisper and forcefully punched her in the stomach, causing her to double over in visible pain, crying. Miss Clark escorted Miss Ventura out of the restaurant, and Mr. Combs remained and continued socializing with the dinner guests. At this point, Interscope Records clearly had actual knowledge that Mr. Combs was dangerous around females and that Combs was willing to brazenly batter a female in public. T say pronounce Iveen. Okay, thank you. Levon says, I hear Kalina Harper is denying that she witnessed anything. Now they dropping names. They mind you, they say Neo was there, Usher, and you know he had already been in Usher life for so long. You know what I'm saying? That he probably started thinking it was normalized too, right? Number 69. Even with Mr. Iveen, wait a minute, that's what you said, Iveen, right? Even after Mr. Iveen watched Mr. Combs commit a violent assault in front of numerous high-profile witnesses, the Bad Boy Interscope deal took place and remained in effect, providing Mr. Combs with immense financial rewards and enabling him to commit further acts of violence without fear of repercussions. Watching Mr. Combs openly assault Miss Ventura in front of Mr. Iveen and various celebrities and observing that other powerful music industry representatives were complicit in Mr. Combs' behavior amplified Miss Richards' fears that Mr. Combs could one day harm her and that his actions would be accepted and normalized by everyone surrounding him. Okay? What's up, watcher from Cloud9? Good evening. Lady T say, Laura Ann Ben said something and so did Aubrey. People dismissed them. Okay? Let me get this other phone, because this phone that I'm reading the chat on finna die. Alright, let me get the back up. Let me get the back up so I can read y'all comments, because I got the screen with the document really open in front of me. Okay, so here go YouTube. Thank y'all for joining me for this. Let me see. Ain't nothing like reading it for yourself. I say that all the time. Okay, so here we go. Oh, I gotta hit this live, but that's something new they did on YouTube. Okay, cut the volume down. Boom. Okay, watching. I hope you've been doing good. I hope everybody had a good day. We already finna get up to Thursday. Friday, I won't be on here till Friday evening. I gotta do some stuff with my kids and stuff Friday. So, move right along. So, at this point, Interscope Records clearly had actual knowledge that Combs was dangerous. No. We was on number 69. I'm gonna repeat the last sentence. Okay? Watching Mr. Combs openly assault Miss Ventura in front of Mr. Iveen and various celebrities, and observing the powerful music industry representatives were complicit in Mr. Combs' behavior, amplified Miss Richards' fears that Mr. Combs could one day harm her and that his actions would be accepted and normalized by everyone surrounding him. Now, that make perfectly good sense to me. You know what I'm saying? Now, I can no longer say, why did she stay around? Why she didn't do it? Shit, she probably feel like it was nowhere to run. Where could she go? You know? Number 70, as part of the agreement between Bad Boy and Interscope, Interscope heavily promoted Diddy Dirty Money's Last Train to Paris album. Mr. Iveen had presented Mr. Combs with a demo of Coming Home for him to produce, a song that would become a multi-platinum hit. Mr. Iveen was encouraging Mr. Combs to develop a new sound for the album, into which Interscope was investing significant resources. Miss Richard, Miss Harper, and Miss Ventura all provided vocal performances for this project. Released in November 2010, the album Last Train to Paris became Diddy Dirty Money's most commercially successful project, providing vast financial rewards to both Interscope and Mr. Combs. Let me see what y'all say. Okay. Let's see. Sure did, Lady T. Laura Ann got into it real bad with him. Levon say Aubrey is seen as being an asshole by some, and assholes sometimes get ignored. Right, the squeaky wheel. You know, it'd be the problem. Then you become the problem. You know, the focus get off of the perpetrator, you know what I'm saying, and it go on to you, you know, to the person who's speaking up. I should have read it before I shot my show, apparently. Oh, well, it is what it is. I don't know what you're talking about right there. Okay, moving right along. Oh, you talking about reading the oh, you should have read this lawsuit. Yeah, I like to read it. You know, me personally, that way I can have a better, like, legal lease type of way when I'm looking at the different entertainment stuff. Number 5 or 6. Mr. Combs subjects Miss Richard to labor trafficking and oppressive working conditions. We heard about that, now letting them sleep or eat. Number 71. In or around fall of 2009, Diddy Dirty Money began recording the song. Oh, let me drink some coffee. Hold on. I can't talk. Mm-hmm. In or around the fall of 2009, Diddy Dirty Money began recording the song Love Comes Down. Upon information and belief, Mr. Combs continued to use drugs that caused him to remain awake for prolonged periods of time. When he was awake, he would demand that Miss Richard and Miss Harper record in the studio, where they would spend 3 to 4 consecutive days recording without a break to eat or sleep. Mr. Combs required Miss Richard and Miss Harper to remain in his homes continuously, denying the opportunity to return to their hotel rooms for breaks. The degree of control Mr. Combs exercised over Miss Richard's daily life and basic needs exacerbated the significant power imbalance and threatening atmosphere that ensured Miss Richard's compliance with his demands. Ooh, that was a $10 sentence. Okay. Number 72. Mr. Combs regularly left the studio and required Miss Richard and Miss Harper to stay and write verses to songs. Occasionally, Miss Richard tried to leave to get something to eat or to go to her hotel. Whenever Miss Richard tried to leave, Mr. Combs would call and demand, "Where the fuck are you? And we have an album to make." Mr. Combs frequently made threats, especially if they asked for food or rest, stating, "You're a bitch. I don't want to see your fucking face. I make niggas go missing. And I make things go away." Each time Miss Richard returned to the studio immediately, believing that Mr. Combs was capable of following through with his threats. You know, he found the way to be in total control of every facet of their life. He probably, you know, he was the one, instead of just, you know what I'm saying, he paying for the rooms. All these luxuries are in amenities that seemingly to be, you know, the perks of this thing is really the prison that he making for you. Right? Don't worry about driving. I have my driver saying, "Oh, my driver will pick you up and my driver will take you back." You know what I'm saying? Making you totally reliant and dependent upon him at his whim, at his, you know, as he see fit. He's a tyrant. Number 73. Mr. Combs criticized Miss Richard for being too skinny, yet denied her request for food and demanded that she drink only peanut butter shakes. Ain't that some shit? Mr. Combs had full meals prepared by a chef and ate them in front of Miss Richard and Miss Harper, never offering them any food. He was a slave master, Levon says. Number 74, Miss Richard and Miss Harper begged for food and rest breaks, but Mr. Combs refused, making statements such as "absolutely fucking not," and "this is what it takes to be great." Mr. Combs' responses underscored the threat he posed and heightened Miss Richard's concerns for her safety and well-being. As Miss Richard continued to work non-stop, transitioning between the studio, rehearsals, workouts, and back to the studio, she became severely dehydrated and experienced chronic stomach cramping from being undernourished and excessively thin. On numerous occasions that she told Mr. Combs that she was not feeling well, he called her lazy and dismissed her health concerns, instilling in her further apprehension of communicating her needs. In or around the summer of 2010, Miss Richard experienced abdominal pain, swollen glands, and a fever. She was hospitalized and diagnosed with arthralgia, joint pain due to overuse, sprains, tendonitis, and infection, anemia, and a low white blood cell count. Miss Richard presented Mr. Combs with her medical records, specifying that she needed to emphasize eating well, being adequately hydrated, and getting adequate rest. But Mr. Combs ordered her to report to the studio the next day for another multi-day recording session. Mr. Combs' blatant disregard for her health and well-being cemented Miss Richards' fear of his authority and control over her health, her career and health. So you got to remember, I don't think there's no such thing as no human resources department, okay? I don't think she had nowhere that she can go and make these complaints. She couldn't even get away and make a move without him knowing it. You know he had to been paying people at the hotel, call me if she look like she trying to leave. You know what I'm saying? Well, me say that sounds like the same thing R. Kelly was doing, right? It's a pattern. Number 78, Mr. Combs often exhibited uncontrollable anger during recording sessions, throwing objects like albums, laptops, and food against the wall or at individuals. Mr. Combs frequently flew into frenzied, unpredictable rages. Miss Richard feared making any misstep that could direct his anger toward her. However, her fears went beyond her immediate physical safety. Because she had witnessed Mr. Combs' violent nature, a side of Mr. Combs that the world had not yet seen, she feared that falling out of Mr. Combs' good graces, or worse, standing up to him, or speaking out against him, could result in serious harm to her. Miss Richard frequently thought about Mr. Combs' threat about making people go missing and feared taking any action that could label her as a target. Despite Mr. Combs' violence, threats, and misogyny, Diddy Dirty Money experienced significant sales of records, selling 2 million copies of one single, 500,000 of another in the U.S., and in Australia, 5 million single copies. Miss Richards' unpaid wages and royalties are estimated at $1.2 million. Miss Richards' unpaid touring wages are estimated at over $350,000 for touring dates within the United States alone. Uh-oh. Now we're going to talk about Ciroc, y'all. Diddy Beats non-payment. In around the summer of 2009, Miss Richard and Miss Harper were required by Mr. Combs to perform as part of Diddy Dirty Money and attend numerous promotional events, including late or overnight parties, all of which were under the contract between Mr. Combs and Ciroc Vodka, or between Mr. Combs and Diddy Beats, pursuant to the Bad Boy Interscope record deal. Miss Richard was never compensated for the extra time she spent fulfilling Mr. Combs' promotional contracts, including the Ciroc and the Diddy Beats campaign. Mr. Combs was paid approximately $250,000 per Ciroc appearance. Mr. Combs did not compensate Miss Richard or Miss Harper for their appearances, other than just $5,000 each on a handful of occasions. Mr. Combs' ongoing explanation for withholding compensation was that their appearances were a requirement for the tour. Additionally, Miss Richard was required to appear and to promote Diddy Beats through parties, albums, songs, and videos. Over time, Mr. Combs was paid $6.25 million for 25 Ciroc shows that Miss Richard was required to attend. Following each show, Miss Richard and Miss Harper approached Mr. Combs to inquire about their insufficient and sporadic payments. Mr. Combs routinely responded with statements such as, "You bitches aren't grateful, and you don't want this." Miss Richard estimates losses from Ciroc campaign promotions totaling at least $1,562,500. Yeah. Upon information and belief, Mr. Combs received an advance on Diddy Beats for which Miss Richard received no compensation. You know what I'm saying? And so LaVon says this is why Kalina Harper ended up on Love and Hip Hop Atlanta. See, I don't know none of these people, child. I don't know none of these people. I never watched all that stuff. You know? Number 83. Between approximately 2009 and 2011, throughout Diddy Dirty Money's recording process, rehearsals, and performances, Mr. Combs repeatedly ordered Miss Richard to strip down to her underwear. He frequently referred to her as bitch or whore and made demeaning remarks about her body, alternatively calling her lazy, fat, ugly, skinny, particularly in front of his friends, producers, and bodyguards. God damn. This man was an absolute tyrant, right? Absolutely it's just crazy. You know what I'm saying? The control that he had, the power that he had, the influence that he had, and he could just run rampant, run wild. Number 85. Often while they were recording in the studio, Mr. Combs would hold parties where he would invite young men and women who were often scantily dressed and appeared underage to use drugs and engage in sex acts. Miss Richard observed Mr. Combs and his colleagues kissing, groping, and inappropriately touching the young women. Upon information and belief, the participants often left the immediate area to have sex and returned shortly thereafter. Living My Best Life says sick, very. Where me say, yeah, she was always crying. 2. I think she also had a baby too while on the show. If you're talking about if this is gonna be Miss Richard that had a baby during the show, then I don't even know how she was able to go make that baby. You know what I'm saying? On numerous occasions between approximately 2009 and 2011, all this stuff, y'all, is happening between 2 years, right? Can you imagine your life going from just being regular smuggler, trying to be an up-and-coming singer? You get this unbelievable opportunity. You're thrust into the spotlight with the TV show. You promised all these different promises and stuff. And at the same time, between 2 and 3 years, you also going through one of the worst times in life, feeling like a victim. And can't tell nobody. Okay? Number 86, on numerous occasions between approximately 2009 and 2011, under the guise of preparing for performances, Mr. Combs would introduce into Miss Richards' changing room. No, would not introduce. Mr. Combs would intrude, into Miss Richards' changing room at Daddy's house, unannounced while Miss Richards was undressed. Tamika says, see, it couldn't have been me because I would have, it couldn't have been me because I would have taken your toddler wearing mouse looking ass and suck on a stick. Wait a minute. Wait a minute. Okay, Tamika is threatening Puff. Hold on. See, it couldn't have been me because I would have took your toddler wearing mouse looking ass and stuck you on a stick. Okay. Not Richards, the other lady, Kalina, the other singing woman, right? Kalina Harper or something like that. Even though a female stylist was present and assisted Miss Richard with her wardrobe, Mr. Combs would grope Miss Richards' body, including her bare buttocks and her chest area near her breast. With no legitimate purpose and without Miss Richards' consent, Mr. Combs caressed her buttocks to show the stylist where he wanted her high-waisted panties positioned and attempted to touch her breasts, claiming to show the stylist where he wanted her bra straps to go. When Mr. Combs would enter the changing room, Miss Richard would cover her chest with her hands to prevent Mr. Combs from seeing or touching her breasts. When Mr. Combs would touch her body, Miss Richard would attempt to swat his hands away and state, "Don't touch me." People lie. Did he know what victims to choose? Right, he vet them. You know what I'm saying? He vet them out. And I'm pretty sure he was looking at such things as family connection. Is these people deeply, in families that are real, real close, right? Economical status, right? And we already hearing about how he groomed them, You show them a little bit of this and see if they're going to say something. And then steady up the ante, right? Number 89, Mr. Combs frequently smacked Miss Richards' bare buttocks and often commented on her body, noting that she was too skinny, that although she was too skinny, she had an ass. Ignoring her visible and communicated discomfort, Mr. Combs persisted and continued to intrude when Miss Richards was in her dressing room, continuing to touch her buttocks and breast area under the guise of showing the stylist what to do, and continued to smack her buttocks without her consent. In or around October 2010, Diddy Dirty Money performed in Glasgow, Scotland, where Mr. Combs engaged in overt sexual advances toward Miss Richards. On numerous occasions, when Miss Richards exited the dressing room fully styled, Mr. Combs looked at her approvingly, smacked her buttocks, while making such comments such as, "You're looking good," "Okay, Dawn, okay," and "I see what that is," in a flirtatious tone. Each time Miss Richards moved away and asked him not to touch her, but Mr. Combs disregarded her protests. On their last night in Glasgow, Miss Richards witnessed Mr. Combs and said, "Oh, look at this." On their last night in Glasgow, Miss Richards witnessed Mr. Combs and several other males gang banging Mr. Combs' female assistant at the hotel pool. Miss Richards immediately left and went to her hotel room. On their flight back to the United States the next day, Miss Richards asked Mr. Combs where his assistant was. Mr. Combs replied, "I don't give a fuck where that bitch is." Oh my God. Miss Richards later learned that Mr. Combs had taken his assistant's passport with him to the United States, leaving the assistant stranded in the United Kingdom. The one they just gangbanged. Okay? This is too much. Winter says it's sad because every last artist on that she was every last artist said that she was extremely extraordinarily talented, wasted talent under his rule. Right. And then he probably blackballed her. You know what I'm saying? Okay. In Glasgow, Miss Harper confided in Miss Richards that her husband and manager, Tony Vick, was abusive. After an especially severe assault, she confided in Miss Richards that she wanted to leave Mr. Vick, and Miss Richards helped her to plan her exit from the relationship. However, Miss Richards and Mr. Vick reconciled, and both Mr. Combs and Mr. Vick, who had a close relationship, learned of Miss Richards' role in helping Miss Harper. Both Mr. Combs and Mr. Vick became noticeably distrustful of Miss Richards, which exacerbated her fears of harm and reprisal. It's just getting worse and worse and worse. When Mr. Combs would require his Diddy Dirty Money bandmates to stay at his residence in Miami, Miss Richards would barricade herself inside her room at night, placing heavy furniture against the door because she feared being harmed in her sleep. You know what I meant to say earlier? I meant to say earlier when they stated that she tried to help Cassie and encourage her to leave. And it stated in this lawsuit how he seemed like he would always find out. You know, we have come to learn that Diddy had a lot of hidden cameras everywhere, right? So that's probably how, even though it seemed like nobody was around, when she would say, hey, and talk to Cassie about trying to leave him, that's probably how he found out. One of the ways and methods, you know? Live and say, this make me so mad. And okay, at this point in time in 2024, what is this? Like my second or third lawsuit that I read? And it's like increasingly, it doesn't matter how many lawsuits we've read. Cassie's, we read that guy's, now we're reading this one. Each and every time we read them, it's not deadening our shock, right? Each and every time I read these documents from different people and hear these accusations, I'm still shocked. I'm still stunned. I'm still like, are you serious? Number 96. In or around late December 2010, Miss Richard, Miss Harper, and Miss Ventura were in Mr. Combs' Los Angeles home when Mr. Combs stated, I wanted to give you fake titties for Christmas. Mr. Combs reached out and cupped Miss Richards' breast without her permission and stated, "You're an A. I'm thinking a D." Miss Richards recoiled in shock and left the room. Throughout the above-mentioned time period, when Miss Richards resisted Mr. Combs' advances, Mr. Combs retaliated by denying her singing parts in songs. No solos for you. Removing her from songs, refusing to allow her to sing in performances, and turning her microphone off during performances. The more Miss Richards rebuffed his advances, the more Mr. Combs' retaliatory behavior increased. Now this is about Mr. Combs' assault, and bear with me, y'all. We getting somewhere. This is the factual allegations, okay? Mr. Combs assaults and falsely imprisons Miss Richards. In around December 2010, Diddy Dirty Money was preparing for an upcoming performance on Saturday Night Live. As usual, rehearsals lasted for days without the opportunity to eat or rest, and the rehearsal schedule was unpredictable. After waiting all day for Mr. Combs to call or send a car, Miss Richards received a phone call from Mr. Combs demanding, "Where the fuck are you bitches? You bitches don't want this. Y'all don't deserve to have someone pick you up. Get a cab." Miss Richards and Miss Harper immediately took a taxi to the SIR studios at 520 West 25th Street, New York, anxious because Mr. Combs sounded enraged. Upon their arrival at the SIR studios, Mr. Combs and Harvey Pierre were waiting for them in the lobby. Mr. Combs screamed obscenities at them. "Where the fuck were you bitches? You bitches don't want to win. You don't want this. I'm so tired of y'all." Miss Richards noticed that the people in the lobby were reacting to Mr. Combs' tirade. Embarrassed, Miss Richards asked Mr. Combs to stop swearing and calling them bitches in front of everyone. Uh-oh. What's up, youngster? Uh-oh. Let me take a sip. Mr. Combs' facial expression shifted as he stepped towards Miss Richards, raised his arm, and swung his fist towards her face. Believing that Mr. Combs was going to hit her, Miss Richards braced for the impact. Before Mr. Combs could strike her, Mr. Combs' bodyguard grabbed her, escorted her out of the studio, and forced her into Bad Boys Records' Bentley that was parked outside. Miss Harper ran after Miss Richards, and Mr. Combs' bodyguard closed and locked the Bentley doors with both women inside. Inside the vehicle, Miss Richards realized there was no interior door handles. Damn. And that they were locked inside with no way to escape. Now, see, at this point, you would think that she was thinking that she was rescued and saved, right? Because before she can get hit, the bodyguard whisked her away and to safety, you would think, inside the Bentley. But she said, shit, all they did was take her out of the public and out of the people's eye. That's what this was. You know what I'm saying? What's up, Shannon? Inside the vehicle, Miss Richards realized there was no interior door handles and that they were locked inside with no way to escape. Miss Richards' belongings was in the studio, but she was able to call her father from Miss Harper's cell phone. Miss Richards relayed to her father what had happened and that she needed help and feared she would go missing. Okay. Moments later, Mr. Combs' bodyguard removed only Miss Harper from the Bentley, leaving Miss Richards locked in the car alone for over 2 hours. Miss Richards screamed as loudly as she could, but no one responded. It was late evening in the wintertime. The windows was heavily tinted, and the interior of the car was dark except for faint interior lights. Miss Richards' belongings and winter coat was in the studio, while the ignition was off and there was no heat. With Mr. Combs' prior threats and violence running through her mind, Miss Richards felt sheer panic, terror, and feelings of claustrophobia at being locked in a small, dark, enclosed space with no way to communicate or call for help. She began to feel cold and fear for her life, not knowing when or if she would be released. Boy! Now, mind you, she getting treated like this all in the lap of luxury, okay? She being held prisoner in a cold Bentley. She hollering for help. It's probably soundproof, okay? Nobody hear her calls. Ain't this some shit? Number 103, Miss Richards' father drove. Miss Richards' father drove to New York from Baltimore and arrived at the studio approximately 2 hours later. Here come her daddy. Only after her father arrived and demanded to see her did Mr. Pierre order Mr. Combs' bodyguard to release Miss Richards from the vehicle. Mr. Pierre ushered Miss Richards' father between several rooms at the SIR studios, where he waited for approximately 2 hours before being able to confront Mr. Combs. Once Miss Richards' father expressed that he intended to contact the police, Mr. Combs warned him to think about your family and think about your daughter's career. Her father appeared visibly frightened by Mr. Combs' threats and actions, which in turn made Miss Richard feel terrified for herself and her family's safety. The next night, Diddy Dirty Money performed on SNL. Mr. Combs subsequently called Miss Richards, complimented her performance, and concluded with a threat. You don't call your dad unless you're in the hospital. Ciao. Baby. Now, that makes me want to go find the SNL performance and watch them perform and watch how she was looking and things like that, because now I know what had just happened the night before, right? So this was the night before they was on Saturday Night Live, okay? So this is I think X is 10. Don't quote me. I think Roman numeral X equals 10. I'm not sure though, okay? Unjust enrichment of defendants by breach of contract and or copyright infringement. Okay. We're nearing towards the end here, because I'm not going to read all the legal lease parts. So this is one of the closing parts that we're going to go through. Number 105. As a member of Danity Kane, Miss Richard has performed over 15 songs and holds composition credits for more than 3 songs. Defendants have failed to account to or pay Miss Richard as agreed for her compositions and her performances, and have breached contracts and infringed her copyrights, all of which has unjustly enriched the defendants. As a member of Diddy Dirty Money, Miss Richard has performances recorded on over 9 songs. Additionally, Miss Richards has composition rights and credits on more than 5 songs. Defendants have failed to account to or pay. Okay, so that is 10. Correct. Thank you. Account to or pay Miss Richard as agreed for her compositions, and it's all her song, y'all, where she was given credits and they saying that she wasn't paid. Okay. Let me wait for it to load up. So that's more of her discography, or whatever you would call it, her library, whatever you would call it. Okay. The assignment. Wait a minute. I think I might have missed something, because that don't make sense. Hold on. Yeah, I'm moving too fast. Okay, so let me keep it. Okay, so they started right here. The last sentence was this: Defendants have failed to account or pay Miss Richards as agreed for her compositions and her. Let me let it load up. Performances, and breach contracts and or infringed her copyrights, unjustly enriching the defendants. In 2020, Mr. Combs selected Miss Richard for a reboot of Making the Band, and Miss Richard spent hours preparing to be a judge on a new show. However, the COVID-19 pandemic halted these plans, and Miss Richard was never compensated in any way. On or about July 1st, 2021. Now, y'all remember that they started this whole deal. Okay, team. They started this whole deal when they first started with Dawn Richards, okay, the complainant, from 2009. All this been going on. She's been having these dealings with Diddy since 2009, and now we're talking about stuff that happened, abuses that happened in 2021, okay? On or about July 1st, 2021, Mr. Combs and Bad Boy Records, or Holdings, or both, directed Janice Combs Publishing Incorporated to assign its administration rights of Miss Richards' songs, and they can list the songs, held from her tenure with defendants in the years 2005 to 2012 to Sony Songs, a division of Sony Music Publishing LLC. The assignment signed by Ms. Richard on October 22nd, 2024, purported to credit through a semi-annual accounting Ms. Richards' royalty account for Ms. Richards' compositions from between 80 to 90% of publisher's share. However, no statements were ever provided, no payments were ever made, and no reversions nor assignment were ever recorded with performing rights organizations or other royalty collecting entities by defendants or by Sony. Let's see what y'all saying. Trisha's moderator was signed to Bad Boy Records, Demetri, and I've been wanting to listen on what he has to say. Which moderator? I'm positive T Lounge has pre-recorded a pre-recorded take. She does. When she come back, she said she'll be right back. She'll be right back. But what she said before you came in yesterday, when I was reading this, and I say that's why I like to read the stuff before I give my thing. She said I wish I would have read it because before she gave her commentary, I'll go post that. But she definitely has commentary, right? T is right there in New York, and she in the move, in the shakings and things like that, right? So, okay, 109. During the summer of 2023, Mr. Combs' new record company, Love Records Incorporated, tendered a contract for negotiation to Miss Richard for the song entitled Deliver Me, embodied as track number 3 on the Love album, Off the Grid, officially released on September 15, 2023. Upon information and belief, Deliver Me sold well prior to Mr. Combs' legal troubles in November 2023. Continuing to the present, Miss Richards sought to establish her rightful percentage as a 21% composer on Deliver Me. Mr. Combs personally called Miss Richard and left a voicemail complaining about her fair request. Upon information and belief, Mr. Combs directed his attorneys to avoid confirming the composition percentages on the song. In fact, list composers who played no part in the composition. List composers who played no part in composing the song. Okay, Lady T back. Lady T, check out Youngster comment. As a result, the contract was never signed by either Miss Richard or Love Records Incorporated. Nevertheless, Miss Richard obtained a copyright registration certificate on a timely basis. Said registration lists authors/claimants as agreed when the song was created in 2009. That registration is filed separately in the court and supports Ms. Richards' claim of copyright infringement by defendants herein. Defendant Love Records Incorporated and Combs infringed Ms. Richards' copyrights in the composition of Deliver Me by the release in Deliver Me without Ms. Richards' permission and without compensation. Now, I'm going to read 110, and then we're going to skip to the last part of it because the next part is all the causes of actions, and that's where they name out everything we just read about the abuse, about the holding, the violence, the withholding of the money, the labor laws that was broken. That's what's under the first cause of action, and that's a bunch of legalese, okay? So let me read the damages. 110, the damages. As a result of the acts and conduct complained of herein, Miss Richard has suffered and will continue to suffer the loss of income, wages, benefits, royalties, promotional fees, touring fees, and other compensation. Miss Richard has also suffered, among other things, future pecuniary losses, emotional pain, suffering, inconvenience, loss of enjoyment of life, post-traumatic stress disorder, anxiety disorder, insomnia, panic attacks, and 9 other pecuniary losses, entitling her to an award of compensatory and punitive damages, injunctive and declaratory relief, attorney fees and costs, and other remedies as this court may deem appropriate. See, I like reading this stuff because I don't read that much no more. And so I love being able to read and use words that I have that you just don't use. You know what I'm saying? So let me ask Google one question. Hey Google, what does pecuniary mean?
Sorry, I didn't understand. But I found something similar. Do you want to know what is percussion in music theory?
No. What does pecuniary mean?
According to Wikipedia, a percussion instrument is a musical
Boy.
instrument that is sounded by being struck or scraped by a beater, including attached or enclosed beaters or rattles, struck, scraped, or rubbed by hand or struck
Google,
against
stop.
similar instrument.
Hey, Google, stop. Hey, Google. What does the word, how do you pronounce the word Pecuniary and a definition?
Sorry, I didn't understand.
Oh my God. You gonna keep me not knowing stuff. Hey Google, how do you pronounce and what is the definition of the word Pecuniary?
On the website youglish.com, they say, sound it out. Break down the word pecuniary into its individual sounds. I
Pecuniary
plus NYUH plus re. Say these sounds out loud, exaggerating them at first. Practice until you can consistently produce them clearly. On the website collinsdictionary.com, they say, adjective. Pecuniary means concerning or involving money.
Okay, it's pecuniary. So, it's pecuniary, y'all. Pecuniary. And not only is look, side eye, wait a minute, not side eye and all y'all go delete the comment. That's okay. It's okay to try to use your context clues, okay? But pecuniary, that's our word of the day that we learned, okay? What that means is relating to money, okay? So when it says and other non-pecuniary losses, meaning the losses outside of the money and income, we learned a new word, how to pronounce it, you know what I'm saying? And then we can even use it in a sentence. Now, yeah, the audacity that Google told me to take my time and sound it out. Okay, Google said take your time and sound it out before you ask me, okay? Okay, so this is all just the stating of the charges, you know, pursuing all the case sightings, okay? And it's like 1 million of them, right? And I'm going to put the link to this document for you guys' own personal use, okay? In the description bar, in the description box. So all of this stuff, all this what I'm skipping is all the different statutes, okay, that they filing against him. I'm trying to get to page the last part that I want to read to you guys. I want to end this live in a prayer, okay? So stick around for the prayer, and then we'll be done with this tonight. And then we're going to end this live, and we'll be back tomorrow. Hopefully I'll wake up in the morning and do a affirmation, and then we're going to do the final day of the daily daughter trial in the pit crew. In the pit. Hold on. All of this is the damages and stuff, okay? Now this ends in a prayer. Let's get it right here. Prayer. Bow your heads and close your eyes. Wherefore, Miss Richard prays that this court enter judgment against defendants herein and any other defendants who may later be added to this action as follows. Number 1, for money judgment representing compensatory damages include but not limited to consequential damages, lost wages, earning, royalties, publishing, touring, and promotional income, and non-economic or pecuniary damages, and all other sums of money together with interest on these amounts according to proof. Number 2, this is what we're praying for, y'all. We're praying for this. For a money judgment for mental pain and anguish and severe emotional distress according to proof. Number 3, we're praying for restitution. Number 4, we're praying for a disgorgement of all sums unjustly obtained from plaintiff or inured to the benefit of the defendants. We're praying for civil penalties, and we're praying for punitive and exemplary damages according to proof. We also pray for attorney's fees and costs. We also praying for prejudgment and post-judgment interest. And finally, we pray for such other and further relief as the court may deem just and proper. Amen. Okay. Yeah, I didn't call you out. It was funny because I just so happened to look at the comments right when I was just seeing your definition there. And girl, I saw it just disappear. All right, y'all. So there you have it, okay? We know now that, hey, I think the most important thing we got is that, like, when they were stating to for me that I got was the fact that how he was grooming people, right? He literally groomed these people. The whole deal, the isolation, the control, right? Making them dependent upon them for their living situation, for their financial situation, for when they eat, when they sleep. And the way the grooming process of slowly introducing different things to them, right? And from the very beginning, a lot of these things was done in front of people. It started while this girl was being filmed on national television for a successful and popular show. So from the very beginning, like it's stated in this lawsuit, they normalized the abnormal, and it became like a mantra. This is what it takes. This is what happens in order for you to be successful. This is what it takes to make it. Right? So now, a lot of times, what done in the dark come out to the light, and it does take that one person or the second person or the third person, because Cassie wasn't the first one to say something. Cassie wasn't the first one to say nothing. You know what I'm saying? So hey, we gonna see how this thing goes. Stuff keep rolling out. This is the topic. So whenever I find an interest in something, I'll go ahead and bring it to you guys. Don't forget, y'all can always email me something that you guys seen, or article. I love true crime. I love the news stories and things like that. So if y'all see something that's interesting and you wanted to discuss it or get other people's perspective or insights or even mine, email me at DemetriaLitAllDay@yahoo.com or DM me, what I'm saying, on Instagram. Okay, so all of my links to my social stuff is on my About tab. Okay. Youngsters say Cassie should have gone through with the lawsuit. Well, hell, she won. Cassie won over $20 million. Hey, Leo, Cassie won over $20 million. And then now, not the state, but the whole entire United States of America is including what happened to her in his current indictment. Because last night I posed the question last night, and everybody resoundingly told me that yes. I say, well, with Cassie having won that lawsuit and gotten paid, surely they can't be including her stuff in the indictment. Wouldn't it be double jeopardy? And we found out that yes, the United States picked up the charge of her charges. So Cassie got the $20 million and he meant to be locked up. Okay? So he's getting his just desserts. Is it just desserts or just rewards? Anywho, y'all, thank y'all so much for joining me yet again on one of these type of lives. We like getting the real information. Now when we look at stuff in the news and when we see everything roll out, when they speak to certain things, y'all heard it here, right? We know the actual ins and outs of things. The indictment we did last night, this lawsuit, she got over 30 million. See? And we also read like 2 other lawsuits since this stuff started coming out, right? So I'm gonna stay on top of the legal documents and bring them to you guys, because that's the part I'll be interested in. And I'm gonna be watching the news, the actual news stories, right? I don't like to really listen to other people's commentary. I know that's crazy, but I really don't. That way I don't be persuaded by anybody else until after I give mine. All right. So y'all have a great night. Thank y'all for coming through. Thank y'all for hitting the like, and thank y'all for supporting. I will be back hopefully in the morning for affirmations. I'll definitely be back in the membership during the final day of the Deadly Daughter trial. At last, what I heard, the defense rested. and now the jury is deliberating. So we will be going over that testimony tomorrow, okay? All right. If she would have proceeded, the victims that started coming forward would have definitely gotten Diddy's sentence. Well, it's just going on now. Okay, Leo, I will, because now I'm finna get all into the nitty gritty of stuff about him actually being jailed. Okay? But I know one thing for certain. With him being in the same jail with R. Kelly finally got him some goddamn company over there. Because R. Kelly been by himself. You know? All right, y'all. Good night. Uh-oh, I done got up and walked off talking about good night. Hold on. I gotta hit